Hey, y'all. Happy Friday. It is Juanita Coley here. So, if you are tuning in with me live, you already know what to do. Let me know that you can hear me, okay? Let me know that you can hear me in the comments if you are tuning in with me live. I am affectionately known as the Contact Center Whisperer, the CEO and founder of Solid Rock Consulting. We are a workforce management consulting firm that focuses on companies' customer experience, employee experience goals, and aligning them to the WFM discipline. So, that's that. Now, what every workforce, y'all already see the title, what every workforce management person wish that they could tell you in their organization, okay? Please stop creating all these skills. Please stop creating all these skills. Now, there is a time and a place to create a new skill, okay? But every time is not the time. So let's get into it. Let's get into why we should be creating skills, okay? The point of the skill, right, is to route a customer to the right person based on what their need is. Okay, so when you have a new customer type or you have a new need and you need to route that call or that interaction to a new person or to a person, that is why we're creating that skill. Now, when we are creating all of these different skills, that causes a problem from a forecasting. When you think about your workforce management people's perspective, the more skills that we have, especially if the queue does not get a lot of volume, it's hard to forecast for that. So if you have a skill set, say for example is, French, right? You're typically an English speaking business, but you have a few customers that speak French. And so you want to be able to serve them. That is great, right? But you get 2 of those calls every month. And so now you break out a skill for that. Now, as a forecasting person, that's hard to forecast that volume. So many times you need to think about what your structure needs to be, whether you're going to create a hunt group or whether you're going to create some kind of queue that skill fits into. But just doing one for every type of scenario causes a problem. Now, many times there is a time and place where you want to break out skills. And that time and place generally looks like, hey, I have this new customer type, or I have this new type of call where I need to know what the volume is going to look like. I need to find out what the trends are going to be. And I need to figure out what that history is going to look like so I can appropriately staff for that. Or I want to introduce some kind of AI. I want to introduce something into my mix. So I need to be able to get the data on that. And so I need to break that skill or that type of call out. And that is a great use of why you want to do data segmentation, because that is what you're doing when you're creating various skills. You are segmenting the data. Okay, so just creating all these willy-nilly skills that you never plan to do anything with, it never gets any volume. And so you just have these skills that are just sitting there, and now it's feeding into whatever tool, whether it's your workforce management tool. Of course, we talk about workforce management all the time. So I'm covering this topic from a workforce management perspective. We have you got 11 million queues. I don't now know, okay, what's the intent behind these skills that we've now created? And you keep hearing me say queue or skill and using that interchangeably. They are separate things, but for the sake of the mass populace and having this conversation, I'm using the words interchangeably. Okay. So when we're talking about skills, when you have a new customer type, I have English, or I have customer service, I have tech support, and I have billing. Okay. That's great. Let's create those skills so that we can get history on that information, so that now when I'm talking about forecasting, okay, what's the volume that's going to come in on customer service, tech support, and billing, I can understand what the volume looks like. But now what typically happens is, for whatever reason, you got a new telephone number, new TFN, you got a new, something has happened in the business, and you're like, oh, I need to create a new skill. You first need to be asking yourself, why am I creating this new skill? Why am I creating this new skill? And are you doing this for data segmentation purposes so I can segment that data out so that I can get history on that so I can do my AI strategy, so that I can forecast better, so I can do whatever the thing is that you want to do, okay? My point is that creating all these skills generally causes more challenges than it solves, the problems that it solves. And so you want to go into that a little bit more thoughtfully. Okay. Asking yourself again, why am I creating this skill in the first place? Okay. Is there an opportunity to consolidate this or merge this with another skill? Are the same people taking these calls? Do the same people have the skill set? Is there a reason I am creating a separate skill other than the fact that it's just a new customer type? If your agents or if your employees are if they're skilled to handle those calls, why are you breaking it out? And someone's going to say, well, because I want the data, but for what? Like, are you going to do anything with it? Because what happens is organizations get data overload. And so you have all this data, and I love data. If anybody knows me, they know that I absolutely love data. But we have to have, I love this, Jessica over at 8x8, she just wrote an article and she was talking about actionable data. And I talk about actionable data all the time because we are in an age where we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. And I say this all the time, without data, without information, then you actually, for your AI strategies, then you actually have actual ignorance. You don't have artificial intelligence. You actually have ignorance is what's happening. And so when we have a lot of data that there's no action behind it, the data just sits there. I always remember getting asked for reports that went into someone's spam box or their other folder that they had set up a rule for leadership. And they never even read the reports. It's like, why are you asking for this data? So I'm on a tangent. But my point is, okay, if you're going to create a new skill because you're like, hey, I need the data, that's a great reason to create a new skill. I need the data for this because this is going to tell me how much of this call type I get that I can peel off. For example, if you're saying, hey, I want to implement AI into my business to alleviate. We've talked about AI responsibly before in another video. Go check that video out. How do you AI responsibly? And so one of those ways is to alleviate call volume or customer or some type of interaction, whether that's emails, chat, whatever the case may be. And so if you're saying, hey, I want to create a new skill because I need to know how many calls come in that I can alleviate from hitting my workforce in the first place, perfect. That's a perfect case for creating a new skill. Why? Because after you create that skill and you say, oh, okay, I get 30,000 calls that are in this type I'm going to go ahead and now peel that volume away. And now I don't have to have that skill. So it's not just about creating the skill to get the data. It's about your plan behind why I'm going to use this data in the first place, and then actually implementing and executing on that plan. Because what happens is people create these skills. They say, oh, yeah, I'm creating it because I need the data. And then the skill just sits there. It's collecting the data. But what it's really doing is just sitting there collecting data. You're not using it in your AI strategies. You're not using it in your workforce management strategy. And your workforce management team just have another skill, or if that skill is a part of a queue that they got to forecast for. So you're impacting your employee experience, your customer experience, it's so many things, because you think about, you're like, Juanita, why is that impacting my employee experience? Well, think about your workforce management team that has to now reskill or de-skill all of these people, right? Say you're in a big organization and you got 11 million skills, right? You have 50 skills. I'm just going to use a real number, right? Say you have 50 skills when you really could have 10. And your workforce management team are the people who are skilling and unskilling these people based on the need or the volume of the business that's coming in. Well, if you have a consolidation opportunity where you can consolidate those skills, then imagine the amount of time that it takes if they're manually doing it. There are tools that will allow you to automatically, do these types of things. But if they're manually doing it, think about the amount of time that they could be saving if they weren't manually adjusting 50 skills instead of the 5 or the 10 or whatever number I just said. Right. So that's something for you to consider and for you to think about. Stop creating all these skills that you don't need just for the sake of saying, oh, I want another skill created, or you didn't want to put thought, because that's really what a lot of times happen. I'm just telling y'all the truth. Right. A lot of times knowing, Telcom got a new request. Telcom created the skill. All right, now it's time for it's good for, whomever is, going to be using the skill to use the skill. That's what generally happens. And so you have to have governance and process around skill creation. Who's going to be using the skill? Why is the skill being created? I want you to put more thought into that. Okay, because it has so many downstream impacts. Also, when we're thinking about creating new skills, make sure you're testing the IVR. Okay. Make sure you're testing the path that caller, all right, or that interaction, if it's, chat, email, whatever, make sure you're testing the routing path, because that's poor customer experience. When I said, hey, I want to speak to billing, I pressed 3 to speak to billing, or I pressed 3 to, get tech support, and I got customer service. And now I got an employee on the other end of the phone that's like, hi, how can I help you? And and I'm giving my thing, and they're like, oh, that's technical support. I'm like, well, I pressed 3 for technical support. Who are you then? Right. And that's because a new skill got created. The IVR, or the routing path, was not checked. Right. There was no testing that was done. So that's something that you want to consider as well. Again, this is back to my point around having governance around skill creation. Stop creating all these skills without a governance process in place. Okay, because it causes impacts to your customer experience, your employee experience, and your WFM teams as far as what they are doing, how accurately they can forecast. Smaller the skill size or queue size, the harder it is to forecast. So if this skill does not warrant enough volume, ask yourself, do I really need the skill? This is something that every workforce management person probably wants to tell you, and they just smile. Right? So, as the contact center whisperer and that WFM girl, I'm telling you so that they don't have to. Okay? All right. I hope that this was helpful. Was this helpful? If it was helpful, let me know. Okay. And if it's not, you could say that too. I'm not sensitive. But if there's another topic you want me to cover, or a rant that you want me to cover, usually I get these asked in. I have actually another question that someone asked me that I'll cover in another live, maybe next week, about shrinkage. So make sure you tune in. I'll be back with another video. Until next time, y'all go be great, and let's make impact. See y'all soon. Bye.